What if the sweetest, most innocent creature you ever invited into your home was a clock, just counting down? And what if, when it reached 0, it wasn't the creature that changed, but you? Listen closely. That sound you hear, a faint scratching in the walls of your mind, that's the sound of your own life being rewritten. They thought they were saving a stray cat from the rain, a simple act of kindness. But the rain wasn't water. It was a baptism. And the cat wasn't a stray. It was a harvest.
It started with a sound so small, so ordinary, no one even noticed it at first. A faint scratching at the back door, like branches brushing the glass. The night was quiet, the kind of quiet that only small towns knew, where every car that passed could be recognized by its engine, and silence felt like something alive. The family had just finished dinner, their laughter still echoing faintly in the house, when the scratching, the father was the first to hear it. He looked up from the dishes, his brow furrowing. "Did you hear that?" he asked. But the mother was humming softly, stacking plates. The son, a boy of 12, didn't notice either. He was busy with the glow of his tablet, his attention swallowed by the screen. The sound came again, louder this time. Not a branch, something else. The father went to the back door, peering through the glass. It was raining, thin streaks tapping against the window pane. And then he saw it. A small shape, soaked to the bone, shivering just beyond the porch light. A cat. It was black, completely black, except for its eyes, huge and yellow, reflecting the light in a way that almost looked wrong. The father hesitated. He wasn't a cat person. None of them were really. But the creature looked pitiful, trembling from the cold, fur plastered to its ribs. "Poor thing," said the mother when she saw it. "It'll freeze out there." The daughter, only 8, pressed her palms to the glass. "Can we keep it, please?" The father sighed. He'd never been able to say no to her. So he opened the door. The cat stepped inside, cautious, dripping water onto the tiles. It didn't meow, didn't make a sound at all. It just looked up at them, unblinking. Those eyes, too bright for the dim kitchen light. The daughter wrapped it in a towel. She said, "We'll call her Luna." The name stuck. That night, as the family settled back into their routine, Luna found a spot near the fireplace. She didn't purr. She didn't eat much either. The mother poured milk into a bowl, but the cat only sniffed it, then turned her head away, almost disdainful. It was strange, but they laughed it off. Maybe she was just scared, adjusting. The next morning, the rain had stopped. The sky was pale and heavy, the yard glistening with puddles. The father noticed something odd when he went to take out the trash. Tiny paw prints in the mud, but not just outside. They led away from the porch, far past the edge of the yard, and then nothing. No return prints. It was as if something had carried Luna there, then dropped her back inside. He brushed it off. Cats wander. They're mysterious creatures. That's what people said. But there were other things too. The daughter began waking up in the middle of the night. She said Luna would sit on her chest while she slept, staring into her face. She'd wake to see those yellow eyes inches from her own, unmoving. When she tried to push the cat away, it would vanish. Not run, not jump, just vanish. At first, they thought it was a dream. But one night, the mother walked by her daughter's room and froze. The girl was fast asleep, breathing slow and steady. But Luna was there, sitting exactly as described, her eyes wide, fixed on the child's face. When the mother stepped closer, Luna turned her head slow and deliberate, as though she'd known she was being watched all along. The mother didn't say anything. She simply reached out, lifted the cat, and placed it outside the door. She closed it firmly, but in the morning, Luna was back on the bed.
Days passed. Luna became part of the family's rhythm. The boy started filming her, trying to catch funny moments for his social media. But the videos never seemed quite right. Every time he replayed them, there was a glitch. Frames skipping, colors dulling, and sometimes, for a split second, Luna's reflection would look different. Her body would flicker, lengthen, distort. He thought it was just a technical issue, until one clip didn't just glitch, it whispered. He had recorded Luna walking across the hallway, tail twitching, but in the playback, just as she turned her head, a low murmur came from the speakers, a voice soft and indecipherable. He paused, turned the volume up. It wasn't static, it was words. I see you. He deleted the video instantly, but that night he couldn't sleep. He kept hearing those same words whispered from somewhere in the dark. I see you. The next morning, he told his father, who laughed it off. Your imagination's running wild. Probably just wind on the mic. But that night, the father heard something too. He was in the kitchen getting a glass of water when he saw Luna sitting on the counter. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. He was about to shoo her off when she opened her mouth. Not a meow, not a hiss. It was almost human. A rasp, dry and whispering. Cold. He dropped the glass. It shattered. When he looked back up, Luna was gone. He didn't tell anyone. How could he? Maybe he was tired. Maybe he'd imagined it. But the next day, when the mother opened the fridge, she screamed. Inside, beneath the milk cartons, something small and wet lay curled against the back wall. A mouse? No. A hand. Tiny. Grayish blue. Like the hand of a newborn. They called animal control. They searched the house, but found nothing. No cat, no creature, no sign of how something like that could have gotten in. That night, Luna returned, curled at the foot of the daughter's bed as if nothing had happened. The house changed after that. The air felt heavier, shadows lingered longer than they should have. The father started locking the doors at night, double-checking the windows. The mother prayed quietly before bed, though she hadn't prayed in years.
The daughter, though, seemed unharmed. In fact, she grew attached to Luna more than ever. She whispered to her for hours, giggling as though she were telling secrets. Sometimes the parents would hear the girl talking to someone when she was alone. When they asked, she'd smile and say, "I'm talking to Luna." "About what?" her mother would ask. "She tells me stories." "What kind of stories?" The girl would pause, her eyes distant. "About before." "Before what?" But she never answered. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the neighbor came knocking. An old woman, thin as bone, who lived 2 houses down. She looked pale, trembling. "You found it, didn't you?" she asked. The father frowned. "Found what?" "That cat, the black one." He hesitated. "Yes, why?" The woman's eyes darted past him, scanning the living room. "You need to get rid of it, now." "Excuse me?" "It's not a cat," she whispered. "It comes from the woods. They say it takes the shape of what you love most. It waits until you bring it home." The father forced a laugh. "You've been listening to too many ghost stories." But she only shook her head. "Watch its eyes," she said. "If you see your reflection in them, you're already marked." He shut the door, unnerved. When he turned around, Luna was sitting in the hallway, watching. The following week, things got worse. The mother awoke to find her reflection delayed in the bathroom mirror. When she turned her head, her reflection stayed still for half a second longer. The boy began hearing scratching inside the walls. The daughter drew pictures, black shapes with too many limbs and eyes like yellow suns. When they asked her what she was drawing, she'd say, "Luna when she's hungry." On the seventh night, the house went silent. Too silent. Even the refrigerator hum seemed gone. The father sat up in bed, his chest tight, unsure what had woken him. Then he heard it. A thump. From the hallway. He grabbed the flashlight and crept out. The beam flickered across family photos, smiling faces that now seemed distorted in the half-light. Another thump. This time, from the daughter's room. He opened the door. The bed was empty, the sheets torn, hanging like webbing, and there, by the window, Luna stood upright on her hind legs, her body stretched unnaturally, her eyes burning gold. "Where's my daughter?" he whispered.
The cat tilted its head, then it smiled, not with its mouth, but with something inside its face, a ripple, a distortion, like skin stretching over something that wanted to get out. The flashlight flickered out. He heard his daughter's voice then, soft, familiar, from inside the darkness. "Daddy?" He turned toward the sound. "Sweetheart." "I'm cold." The light came back for an instant, just long enough for him to see the shape behind Luna. It was small, pale, eyes wide and unblinking, the same yellow as the cat's. He screamed. The mother ran in moments later to find him collapsed on the floor, trembling, clutching at his chest. He couldn't speak, just kept staring at the empty bed. They called the police, but the daughter was gone. No sign of struggle, no footprints, no broken windows, just gone. Luna was gone too. The house felt dead after that. The mother tried to hold things together, but something inside her had cracked. The boy stopped speaking altogether. The father barely slept. He'd sit on the porch for hours, watching the tree line, waiting for something he couldn't name. And then, 2 weeks later, Luna came back. The boy saw her first, standing in the yard at dusk. Her fur was clean, dry, gleaming under the fading sun. She looked exactly the same, except for her eyes. They weren't yellow anymore. They were blue. The same blue as his sister's. He ran inside, shouting for his parents, but when they came out, the cat was gone. That night, he dreamed of her. In the dream, she was whispering again, her voice soft and wet. "Let me in. It's cold out here." When he woke, the window was open. Muddy paw prints led across the floor, up to his bed. He screamed. The parents rushed in, flicking on the light, but there was nothing there. Just the prints vanishing halfway across the room. The next morning, the father found something beneath the bed. A single, tiny tooth. Human. He threw it into the fire, but it didn't burn. It just turned black and sank into the embers. He began researching. Old legends, folklore, local stories. He found references to something called the borrower, a spirit that takes form through affection, feeding on love until it replaces what it mimics, a thing that comes when called by kindness. That night, the mother locked all the doors and windows. She clutched across and whispered prayers.
But the boy heard something scratching again. Soft, gentle, at the back door. "Let me in," came the voice. It wasn't a cat's voice. It wasn't even his sister's voice. It was a blend, a twisting, layered sound, like two people speaking at once, one above, one below. He covered his ears, but it didn't stop. "Let me in." The father came running, grabbing his son by the shoulders. "Don't answer it," he whispered, "no matter what you hear." They waited. Minutes passed. The sound stopped. But later that night, the mother vanished. The door was locked from the inside. No footprints, no signs of a break-in. Just one thing left behind: her nightgown folded neatly on the bed, and a small black tufted fur resting on top. After that, the house began to decay. The walls seemed damp even when it didn't rain. The smell of rot hung in the air. The boy swore he could hear breathing in the walls, slow and deep, like something sleeping just behind the plaster. The father became obsessed. He stopped eating, stopped shaving. He spent hours talking to himself, muttering about eyes and mirrors and something he called the exchange. On the 10th night, he went into the woods. He didn't come back. When the police finally searched the house, they found it empty. No sign of struggle, just the faint smell of something animal lingering in every room. In the daughter's room, they found drawings covering the walls, hundreds of them, each one showing the same thing: a black shape crouched beside a bed with yellow eyes and a mouth that stretched too wide. And in the final drawing, scrawled across the wallpaper in crayon, were the words, "Thank you for letting me in." Months passed before anyone realized someone had moved into the house again. It stood empty for almost half a year after the disappearance. The real estate agents didn't like showing it. Too much local gossip. Some said the place was cursed, others said the family had simply lost their minds. But eventually, a new couple arrived. A quiet pair in their late 30s, seeking a fresh start. They didn't know the story, or maybe they didn't believe it. The agent mentioned something vague about a tragic incident, but they brushed it off. The first thing they noticed was how cold the house felt, even in summer. The air was still, as though it hadn't been disturbed in years. Dust lay thick across the furniture, but beneath it all, there was a faint, sweet smell, like old flowers left too long in water. They unpacked slowly. The husband worked from home, setting up his office upstairs, while the wife spent her days cleaning. She found the daughter's old drawings on the bedroom walls, half scrubbed away, but still visible beneath the paint. Strange shapes, eyes, teeth. She painted over them quickly.
By the second week, things began to feel almost normal. The wife even started baking again, filling the house with warmth and the scent of cinnamon. They laughed about the bad energy the neighbors had warned them about. "Ghosts don't pay bills," the husband joked. Then one night, it started again. A sound at the back door. At first, she thought it was the wind. Then came the scratching. Slow, measured, not desperate, deliberate. She froze. The husband was upstairs, asleep already. She walked to the door, barefoot on the cold tiles. There, in the shadow of the porch, two golden eyes stared back at her. It was a cat, small, black, perfectly still. Her breath caught. Something about it felt familiar. When she opened the door, the cat stepped inside without hesitation, brushing against her legs. Its fur was sleek, its tail twitching lazily. She laughed at herself. "You scared me," she whispered. "Where did you come from?" The tag around its neck was rusted, unreadable. By morning, She decided to keep it. The husband wasn't thrilled, he had allergies. But the cat was quiet, clean, polite even. It slept most of the day, curling into impossible shapes by the window. They named it Miso. The wife started talking to it while she cooked. Just little things at first, then more. Secrets, confessions. It felt nice to have something listening again. But the cat never made a sound. Not once. No meow, no purr, just silence. One evening, as the sun faded, she noticed something strange. Miso was sitting in the hallway, staring at the old family photo still hanging by the stairs, the one they hadn't replaced yet, the missing family's picture, the girl with the toothy smile. The cat's tail flicked, its gaze fixed on the little girl's face. "Crepey," she muttered, half laughing. But when she tried to pick the cat up, it hissed for the first time, low and guttural, a sound that didn't belong in its small body. She dropped her hand. That night, she dreamed of a forest, dark trees swaying without wind, and somewhere in the distance, something moved between them, small, quick, with eyes that glowed like lanterns. She woke to the sound of scratching again, but this time it came from inside the house. She shook her husband awake. "Do you hear that?" He groaned, half asleep. "Probably Miso, go back to bed." But when she went to check, Miso was sitting on the dresser, perfectly still. The sound continued, behind the walls, like something was moving inside them.
They called pest control the next day. The man inspected the walls, the crawl space, the attic. "No signs of rodents," he said, "but I did find this." He handed them a small object wrapped in cloth. Inside was a single baby tooth. The wife stared at it, her stomach twisting. Where was this? Behind the baseboard, near the girl's old room. They threw it away, burned the cloth. But the smell lingered, burnt sugar and rot. That night, the husband dreamed of running water. He woke to find the faucet running in the bathroom, though he'd closed it tightly before bed. When he looked into the mirror, he saw something move behind him. Miso, sitting on the counter, watching. "Creepy little thing," he muttered, turning off the tap. But when he looked up again, the cat was gone. Days later, the wife began to change. She looked tired all the time, pale. She said she kept waking up to whispering voices. "It's Miso," she told him. "It talks when you're asleep." He laughed at first, but when he woke one night and found her sitting up in bed whispering to something at the foot of it, his laughter died. "Mara," he said softly. She turned to him slowly, her eyes wide and unfocused. "She says she's hungry." "Who?" But she only looked down, stroking Miso's fur. After that, the husband set up cameras around the house. He didn't believe in ghosts, but something was wrong. He needed proof. The next morning, he checked the footage. Everything looked normal until 3:08 a.m. Miso was sitting in the living room, staring toward the camera. Then the lights flickered. The cat's body blurred, and for 3 frames, its shape distorted. Elongated limbs, a second face flickering beneath the first, eyes blinking from the wrong places. Then it was gone.
He showed the footage to his wife, but she didn't react. She only smiled faintly. "She's just showing you who she is," she said. That night, he heard her singing softly in the kitchen, a lullaby he didn't recognize. He peeked around the corner. She was sitting on the floor, Miso curled in her lap. The lights above her flickered rhythmically, in time with her song. He whispered her name. She turned to look at him, her pupils wide, unnatural, reflecting the same gold as the cat's eyes. He stumbled back, tripping over a chair.
The light went out. When it came back, she was alone. Misa was gone. He left the house the next morning, booking a hotel nearby. He needed distance. But when he returned 2 days later, she was waiting at the window. "You left us," she said simply. "Mara, listen. She doesn't like when you leave." He stepped inside, his skin crawling. The air was thick, humid, smelling faintly of iron. "Where's the cat?" "Sleeping," she whispered, "but not for long." That night he dreamed of a heartbeat echoing through the walls. When he woke, his chest felt heavy. There was something under the blankets. He reached down, fur. But when he pulled back the sheets, there was nothing there. He didn't sleep again after that. On the third night, he tried to take Mara and leave. But as he packed, he noticed something strange. Paw prints on the ceiling, tiny, black, smeared like soot. Mara stood in the doorway. "She doesn't want to go," she said. He snapped, "It's a cat, Mara." Her smile didn't change. "Then why does she have your eyes?" He froze. She pointed toward the mirror. He turned, and for a split second, he saw them. 2 golden irises gleaming faintly in his reflection. Not his, hers.
He smashed the mirror. That night, he destroyed the cameras, packed what he could, and left. But the moment he drove away, his phone buzzed. A message from Mara. A picture. It showed her sitting in the living room, Miso on her lap. Behind them, in the window's reflection, a tall shadow loomed. Its face stretched into something almost human. He didn't go back. The house stood empty again. For months, neighbors said they heard strange noises, scratching, soft laughter, faint singing that drifted through the night. Some swore they saw lights flickering inside, even though the power had been cut off. One night, a group of teenagers broke in. They filmed everything for their channel. The footage was never uploaded, but one of the kids, Eli, was found wandering the highway 2 days later, barefoot and shaking. He wouldn't talk at first. When he finally did, his voice was hoarse. "It's not a cat," he said. "It wears the cat like a coat." They found his friends' phones inside the house. Screens shattered, batteries melted. No sign of the others. The footage recovered from one device was only 30 seconds long. It showed the living room empty, then a faint sound, a meow, distorted. The camera turned toward the hallway. Something crawled from the shadows. Something small, black, twitching. Its body unfolded in ways that bones shouldn't. For a moment, it looked like a cat. Then it didn't. The clip ended with a whisper, "Let me in." After that, the city condemned the property. No one was allowed near it. But people still came, curious, daring each other to touch the door, to peek through the windows. Most left laughing, except one. A delivery driver, dropping a parcel late one evening, said he heard something inside, a child's giggle. Then a voice, "Would you like to see the cat?" He quit his job the next day. Eventually, the house was torn down, but the lot stayed empty. The grass never growing right, always patchy and dead in the center, where the living room used to be. One spring morning, a stray was seen wandering the edge of the lot, small, black, perfectly still. A man walking his dog stopped to look. The cat tilted its head, watching him. The dog whined, backing away. When the man tried to approach, the cat turned and disappeared into the woods behind the lot. A week later, he brought food,
hoping to coax it out. He left a bowl of milk on the ground and waited. He heard it before he saw it.
Then the bull slid across the dirt, as though nudged by invisible hands. The man blinked. The air grew cold. He took a step back. "Here, kitty." From the darkness, 2 eyes appeared, not glowing this time, dull, human. "Hungry," said a voice. The man ran. No one saw him again. Some say the cat still roams the outskirts of town. It comes when you call softly, when your voice trembles with pity. It waits until you offer warmth, a place to sleep. And once it's inside, once you start to care, it begins to feed. They say it starts small, missing pets, strange noises, cold spots in the air. Then it takes faces, voices, memories. And by the time you realize it's not a cat, it's already too late. Because by then, you've already let it in. Years later, the story of the cat became a local legend. Parents used it to scare their children into obedience. "Don't go near the woods, or the black cat will come for you." Teenagers whispered about it at bonfires, daring each other to say, "Let me in," 3 times into the darkness. But stories fade. People move on. The town changed, the forest thinned, and eventually, no one really believed it anymore. Except one person. The boy, now a man who had once lived in that house. He had survived, barely. Found wandering along the old highway weeks after his father disappeared. The police said he couldn't remember much, but that wasn't true. He remembered everything. The whispers, the eyes, the voice calling from inside the walls. He'd changed his name, moved away, tried to bury it, but the nightmares never left. Every night he dreamed of a cat's shadow stretching longer and longer until it covered the moon. Now, years later, he returned, not for closure, but for answers. The lot where the house once stood was empty, just overgrown weeds, bits of brick, and a foundation cracked open like a wound. The air felt wrong, heavy, like static before a storm. He wasn't alone. A woman stood near the edge of the lot, sketchbook in hand. She was an artist there to paint the haunted property, as she called it. When she saw him, she smiled. "Didn't expect anyone else out here." He hesitated, then said, "I used to live here." She blinked. "Oh, you're that family." He nodded once. She tilted her head. "Was it true about the cat?" He didn't answer, but his eyes shifted to the tree line. Something moved there. It wasn't wind.
The woman followed his gaze. "Probably a raccoon," she said lightly. He didn't correct her. He just kept staring until the shadows swallowed the movement completely. They talked for a while after that, the kind of awkward conversation that fills silence when both people are uneasy. The sun began to set, painting the lot in long gold lines. She packed up her things, saying she'd be back the next morning to finish the sketch. He didn't leave. He sat at the center of what used to be his living room, tracing the outline of the old walls with his eyes. The grass here was dead, just as everyone said. As darkness fell, he felt it again, the quiet hum in the air, that strange vibration that lived between silence and sound. Then he heard it. Scratching. Soft, faint, beneath the dirt. He froze. It came again. Closer this time, like something crawling just under the surface. He whispered, "No," but the sound grew louder. He stood, backing away slowly. The ground bulged, cracked, then something pushed up from beneath it, a small shape covered in mud and fur. It was a cat. Black, soaked, eyes burning gold. He stumbled back, heart pounding. "You can't be real!" The cat tilted its head, then opened its mouth. The voice that came out was soft, childlike. "Cold!" His knees buckled. That word, the same word his father had heard all those years ago. He turned and ran. He didn't stop until he reached his car, breath ragged, hands shaking as he fumbled with the keys. When he finally looked back, the lot was empty again. He left town that night, driving for hours. But no matter how far he went, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was following him. Every time he glanced in the rearview mirror, he thought he saw it, the faint outline of a small black shape in the back seat. When he finally reached a motel, he checked the entire room before locking the door. He didn't sleep. At 3:08 a.m., his phone buzzed, a new message from an unknown number. It was a picture. The lot. Taken from above. In the center of the dead grass, fresh paw prints. He deleted the photo and threw the phone across the room. But the scratching came again. This time, from under the bed. He froze, slowly knelt, pulled the blanket edge up. Nothing.
He sat back on the bed, exhaling, trying to calm down. Then he noticed something in the mirror, a small shadow moving behind him. He turned. The cat sat on the dresser, staring. He screamed. The motel clerk found him the next morning, the room empty except for deep claw marks on the door and a small patch of black fur stuck to the sheets. The car was gone. 2 towns over, the artist, Amelia, was working on her sketches when she got a call. A soft, static voice she could barely understand. Then a whisper, "Let me in." The line went dead. That night, she couldn't stop thinking about the man she'd met. She looked at her drawings again and froze. She had sketched the lot, the trees, the cracked earth, but in every version, in the corner of the page, a small dark shape appeared. A cat. She hadn't drawn it consciously. She tore the pages up and went to bed, but as she drifted to sleep, she heard scratching at the window. When she looked up, 2 golden eyes gleamed through the glass. The next morning, her car was found crashed on the side of the road, her sketchbook torn apart and scattered in the grass. Witnesses said they saw a black animal darting into the woods. Her phone was recovered a week later. It contained a single voice memo recorded the night she died. The first 30 seconds were silence, then faint breathing, then her voice trembling. "It's in the house." A pause. "It looks like him." Then another voice, softer, familiar. "Let me in." The recording ended there. After her death, people avoided the area again, but strange things kept happening. Pets went missing. Children spoke of a black cat that followed them home but disappeared when parents looked. One girl told her mother that the cat had spoken to her, that it promised to show her her real family. The mother laughed it off until the girl vanished a week later. Only her shoes were found, sitting neatly by the door. A few nights later, the same mother woke to her daughter's voice whispering from the hallway. "Mommy?" She ran out sobbing, calling her name. The house was dark, empty. Then she saw it. 2 eyes at the end of the hall, low to the floor, reflecting the light.
"Mommy," the voice said again. But the mouth that spoke wasn't human. The mother never went back inside. The police called it grief-induced psychosis, but the neighbors knew better. The thing wasn't gone. It never left. It only waited.
The pattern continued. Years of silence followed by sudden disappearances, all tied to the same place, the same woods, the same whisper. Then came the journalist. Her name was Vera, ambitious, skeptical, the kind who didn't scare easily. She'd made a career out of debunking urban legends. When she heard about the so-called borrower's cat, she saw her next big story. She arrived in town with a camera, a recorder, and a list of names. The police reports were easy enough to find. What bothered her was the consistency. Every case, scratching sounds, vanishing people, traces of black fur, eyes described as too bright. She went to the library, digging through old records. One headline caught her attention from the 1930s. Family found dead after taking in stray cat. Bodies partially mummified. Below it, a photo. A farmhouse, long gone. And in the corner of the image, almost hidden by shadow, two faint golden dots. Eyes. That night, Vera set up camp near the old lot. She wasn't afraid, just curious. She filmed everything. Hours of nothing but wind and cicadas. Then just past midnight, the footage changed. The air shimmered, faintly like heat waves. And from the dark came a small figure. A cat. It sat just at the edge of her flashlight's beam. "Come here," she whispered. It didn't move. She reached into her bag for a piece of jerky, holding it out. "See? Food." The cat took one slow step forward, then another. Its eyes glowed brighter, too bright. Vera frowned. Weird reflection. The cat's body flickered, twice its size, then back again. She stumbled backward, dropping the food. The camera fell, hitting the ground at an angle. The footage turned chaotic. Flashes of her face, the trees, then something large and black sweeping across the frame. Her screams lasted 12 seconds. When rescuers found the camera, it was half buried in the dirt. No blood, no footprints. Just the faint sound of breathing still recording on the mic. The video went viral briefly before being taken down. The town tried to suppress the story, afraid of curious outsiders, but it was too late. The legend had evolved.
Now, online forums called it the cat that wears faces, a creature that lures victims by appearing as something helpless, a stray, a child, a familiar voice. Once you respond, once you care, it finds its way in, and it never leaves empty-handed. Some say it doesn't kill, it replaces. It takes what it needs, voice, shape, warmth, and leaves behind a shell. Others believe it's older than language, a fragment of something forgotten that feeds on empathy. One theory claimed it could travel through reflections, mirrors, screens, even eyes. They said that's why it always stared. The stories grew until no one knew what was real anymore. But somewhere, in a small motel off a forgotten highway, a room sits permanently closed, the door warped, the number missing. Inside, on the bed, lies a patch of black fur. And if you press your ear to the wood, sometimes, just sometimes, you can hear it, scratching, and a whisper. "Let me in." There's a rule about stories like these. The more people tell them,
the stronger they become. Every retelling adds a piece of belief, a thread of attention that keeps it alive. And by now, the story of the borrower's cat had been told too many times to die quietly. It wasn't just a ghost story anymore. It was a presence. The people who knew its name avoided saying it out loud. Those who didn't, skeptics, thrill seekers, vloggers, kept searching for proof. One of them was a man named Caleb. He ran a small horror channel online, dedicated to debunking cursed places and supposed hauntings. His tone was half cynical, half gleeful. He had filmed in asylums, abandoned malls, even graveyards. None of it ever scared him. It was all clicks, all performance. Until he read about the cat. The story hooked him immediately, not because he believed it, but because it was perfect content. A quiet town, a missing family, eerie folklore, and a creature tied to empathy itself. He knew it would make a great series. He called it The Borrower's Hunt. With two friends, Lena, the researcher, and Mark, the cameraman, they drove to the town where it all began. They interviewed locals, explored the old lot, filmed reaction shots. The townspeople were polite but guarded. When Caleb asked about the disappearances, most refused to talk. One old man at the gas station finally said, "You want to find it? Just wait till you pity something that shouldn't be pitied." Caleb laughed, but Mark didn't. That night, they stayed in a rental cabin just outside town. The woods pressed close around it, tall and silent. Lena found the old police reports online. She said, "Look at this. Every incident happens near the same date, late autumn, new moon. That's tomorrow."
They set up their equipment, infrared cameras, motion sensors, mics. The plan was simple. Film overnight, get something spooky, and leave with enough footage for 3 episodes. At midnight, they started recording. The forest was still. Too still. Even the insects had gone quiet. "Feels fake," Caleb muttered, forcing a laugh, like someone hit mute on nature. They filmed for hours with nothing happening. Around 2 a.m., Caleb went out alone for his solo segment, holding a flashlight and talking to the camera. He walked toward the old lot, the beam of light trembling slightly in his hand. "All right, guys," he said, forcing a grin. "Here's the spot. Legend says this is where the cat was first found. So, let's see if she's home." The wind shifted. Something moved near the edge of the frame. "Hello?" No response. He aimed the light toward the movement. A shape crouched low in the weeds. Small. Black. His grin faltered. "Holy crap, you're kidding me." The cat stepped forward, mud on its paws, eyes glowing faintly gold. Caleb laughed nervously. "No way, actual cat footage!" Okay, this is too good. He crouched down, holding out his hand. "Hey, kitty, you're famous, you know that." The cat tilted its head. Behind him, the air shimmered faintly. The microphone picked up something, like breathing, faint and slow. "Come on, don't be shy." The cat blanked. Its pupils were too round, too human. "Caleb," Lena's voice crackled over the walkie. "We're picking up interference. What's your location?"
He pressed the button. "At the site. You're not going to believe this, A whisper cut through the static. "Let me in." He froze. "Lena, stay again?" No answer. Just the whisper again, softer. "Let me in." The flashlight flickered. When it came back, the cat was gone. Caleb stumbled backward, breath quickening. He turned in a circle, scanning the dark. "Guys, something's wrong with the radio." Static hissed back. Then a low laugh, like a child giggling underwater. He bolted. Back at the cabin, Mark saw him coming.
pale, shaking, eyes wild. What happened? Caleb couldn't answer. He just kept repeating, "It talked." They checked the footage immediately. The camera showed Caleb's approach, the cat, the static, and then a frame-by-frame distortion. For exactly 0.7 seconds, the cat's body stretched upward, forming the vague silhouette of a human face. Then, the screen went black. They thought it was a glitch, until Mark noticed the reflection in Caleb's flashlight. A second pair of eyes, right behind him. The next morning, Caleb insisted they leave. "We've got enough, let's go." But Lena was stubborn. "We can't walk away now. This is the first real evidence we've ever found." Mark sided with her, and against his better judgment, Caleb stayed. That night, the scratching started. At first, it came from outside the cabin, slow, rhythmic. Then it moved to the walls, then the ceiling. Mark grabbed the camera, whispering, "You getting this?" The sound stopped. They all held their breath. Then, the cat's meow echoed from the kitchen. They turned toward it. The sound was wrong, drawn out, human-like. "Lena, don't," curse-bird. But she was already walking forward. "It's scared." "Don't," he repeated, grabbing her arm. "That's how it gets you." She shook him off. "It's just an animal." She opened the kitchen door. The light bulb flickered. Lena gasped. There, on the counter, sat the cat, but its shadow stretched across the wall, tall, twisted, bending in impossible directions. "Lena, back away!" The cat's mouth opened. "Cold." Lena screamed. The lights went out. When they flicked back on, she was gone. Just gone. The kitchen was empty except for her necklace, lying on the floor. Caleb grabbed it, shaking. "We're leaving."
In the months that followed the disappearance of Caleb and Mark, the legend of the borrower's cat fell quiet again. People forgot. New stories replaced it. Urban myths with fresher horror, slicker production. But in certain corners of the internet, the name still surfaced, always briefly, always deleted soon after. And that's how it found the family. They weren't looking for it.
Mark nodded silently, packing the camera. But as they reached the door, something moved behind them. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. "Lena?" Caleb whispered. No answer. Then a voice, soft, familiar. "Don't leave me." He turned. Lena stood there, or what looked like her. Her clothes were soaked, her skin pale as candle wax. Her eyes glowed faintly gold. "Stay," she whispered. "It's warm here." Mark lifted the camera, trembling. Oh God. The lens caught her face flickering, like two images overlapped. Lena and something darker, something smiling too wide. Caleb lunged for the door, yanking it open. Cold air rushed in. He dragged Mark out, slamming it behind them. From inside came a sound, not a scream, not a growl, something in between. They ran into the woods, branches tearing at their clothes. They didn't stop until the cabin lights were gone. By dawn, they found the road and hitched a ride out of town. 2 days later, Mark uploaded the footage. The video was viewed 5 million times in 48 hours. People called it fake, claimed the distortion with CGI. But then, strange things started happening to viewers. Comments filled with reports of scratching sounds, shadows moving behind screens, reflections that blinked on their own. One user wrote, "I paused at 3:08 and saw eyes in my webcam." Another said, "My cat's been staring at my TV since I watched this." Within a week, the video disappeared from the platform. Mark's account was deleted. Caleb's channel went dark. He stopped answering calls. A month later, a housekeeper found him in his apartment. The place reeked of rot. Every mirror was smashed. In the corner of the room sat a bowl of milk, untouched.
and on the wall, scrawled in something black,
Thank you for letting me in.
Mark vanished 2 weeks after that. His camera was found in a pawn shop states away. The last file on it was corrupted, except for one frame. An image of a black cat sitting on his bed, its eyes reflecting the shape of a man. After that, people online stopped talking about the borrower's cat. Forums shut down, posts deleted themselves, entire threads vanishing overnight. But some kept the story alive, in whispers, in secret, in places the algorithm couldn't reach. And somewhere, under the weight of all those words, the thing stirred again, because belief feeds it. Every story is an invitation, and every listener a door.
They lived far from the places that made headlines, in a house that didn't look haunted, on a street that didn't have a name worth remembering. A father, a mother, and their teenage daughter. Ordinary, unremarkable. Their life was quiet, and that's how they liked it. Until the night the daughter brought something home. It was raining hard, the kind of storm that made the world feel smaller. The girl came in soaked, clutching a bundle against her chest. When she unwrapped the towel, the cat blinked up at them, tiny, trembling, black as oil. "It was in the road," she said, shivering. "I couldn't just leave it there." The father frowned, but the mother smiled softly. "Poor thing," she murmured, taking it from her hands. "We'll keep it for the night." The cat didn't fight. It didn't hiss or scratch. It just watched them with those wide, unblinking eyes. From that moment, the house began to change. The first night, they heard it pacing. Its paws were soft, but the steps were too steady, too heavy for something so small. The father thought it was the storm echoing through the pipes. The mother said it was the wind. But the daughter didn't sleep. She woke to the sound of whispering from the hallway, low, rhythmic, like a voice speaking through the walls. When she peeked out, she saw the cat sitting at the end of the corridor, staring at her door. Its tail flicked once, then again. The next morning, the family found scratches on the back door. Not claw marks, shapes, symbols, circles within circles. "Probably raccoons," the father said. The mother nodded, although her voice trembled. By the third day, the cat had chosen its favorite spot, the windowsill overlooking the yard. It would sit there for hours, motionless, watching something no one else could see. The mother began feeding it milk in a small blue dish. She swore it purred when she did, but the daughter said it didn't make a sound. That night, the father found the cat sitting in his study. The door had been locked. "How did you get in here?" he muttered. The cat tilted its head. He took a step closer. Its eyes caught the light, and for a split second, he saw his own reflection in them. But it wasn't quite him. The smile was wrong. He shut the door and didn't tell anyone. Days passed. The cat grew bolder. It began appearing in rooms it couldn't have entered, sitting on furniture it had no weight to leave impressions on.
The daughter started to draw it, pages and pages of black ink, the cat in different forms, sometimes small and sleek, sometimes stretched thin and tall. The mother found her one morning at the kitchen table, whispering to herself. "It says it's lonely," she murmured, eyes half-lidded. "It says it remembers me." The father tried to burn the drawings. The fire went out before the paper caught. That night, the cat vanished. For a while, the house felt normal again, quiet, still. But then the dreams started. The father dreamed of walls breathing. The mother dreamed of voices under the floor. The daughter dreamed of being watched from the ceiling.
And always, always there was the sound of purring. They began to hear it even while awake, beneath the hum of the fridge, the rustle of curtains, the ticking of the clock, a steady vibration like a second heartbeat hidden in the air. One evening, the daughter screamed. The parents ran to her room. She was sitting upright in bed, trembling, staring at the corner. "There," she whispered. The father looked. Nothing. But when he turned the lights off, the outline appeared. A shadow shaped like a cat, but larger, too large. Its head tilted, the movement oddly human. The daughter cried, "It wants something." The mother held her close. "It's just a dream." But she knew it wasn't, because that night, while the others slept, she felt the bed dip beside her. Something warm pressed against her arm. She reached out without opening her eyes. Her fingers brushed fur, and then skin. She gasped. The shape was gone. She didn't tell the others. The next morning, the father was gone instead. His shoes sat by the door, his keys on the counter. No sign of struggle, no note. Only one thing out of place: a bowl of milk, half empty, sitting in the hallway. The mother called the police. They searched the woods, the roads, the creek. Nothing. Days passed. The daughter stopped eating. The mother stopped sleeping. Every night the house made new sounds: whispers, footsteps, a slow scratching beneath the floorboards. Then came the smell, damp, metallic. The mother traced it to the basement door. It was locked. She hadn't locked it. When she forced it open, cold air rushed out, smelling of soil and rot. At the bottom of the stairs sat the cat. It looked up at her, purring softly. In front of it lay something wrapped in a towel. She stepped closer. The towel was stained dark. Her breath hitched. A hand slipped out. She screamed.
When the police arrived again, there was no body. Only the cat sitting on the basement steps, licking its paws. The mother insisted they take it. The officer carried it to his car, muttering about crazy people and stray animals. He didn't make it home that night. His cruiser was found on the edge of the woods, engine running, door open. The seat was soaked with milk. After that, the mother begged her daughter to leave. "We'll go to my sister's," she said. "We'll start over." But the daughter refused. "She said she'd be lonely," the girl whispered. "Who?" The girl smiled faintly. "The cat." That was the last real conversation they had. 2 nights later, the mother awoke to the sound of meowing. It was coming from the attic. She climbed the ladder, heart pounding. The air was thick and warm, the smell unbearable. "Sweetheart?" she called. A voice answered, but it wasn't her daughter's. "She's here. She's inside." The mother stepped forward, flashlight trembling. The beam caught something in the corner. A shape crouched low, covered in shadow. "Sweetheart?" she said again. The shape turned. It wasn't her daughter anymore. Her face was pale, her eyes golden, her movements wrong, jerky, uncertain. She smiled too wide, lips cracking. "Don't cry," she said. "It's okay now." She said, "You can stay too." The mother stumbled backward. The flashlight dropped, rolling. And in that brief flicker of light, she saw the cat behind her daughter. Only it wasn't small anymore. It towered over her, its fur rippling like smoke, its body shifting between feline and human, its mouth splitting too far. The flashlight went out. The neighbors reported screams that night, but by morning, the house was silent. Police found no one inside, no sign of struggle,
No blood. Just 3 bowls of milk lined neatly in a row by the window, and the cat sitting on the sill watching the yard. When they tried to take it, it disappeared. The house was sold a year later, then again, then abandoned. No one stays long. Sometimes people passing by at night say they see something move behind the glass, a shadow that doesn't belong to a person. Sometimes they hear purring, and sometimes when it rains, a voice hums softly from inside. A woman's voice. I'm home.
But that wasn't the end, because the footage still exists. Somewhere on a corrupted drive, deep in a forgotten folder, the files from Caleb's camera wait. They've been copied, shared, re-uploaded under new names. The algorithms try to bury them, but they always come back. People say if you watch it long enough, the reflection in the cat's eyes changes. At first, it's just your own face. Then, slowly, something else appears behind you. A shape, a shadow, watching. And when you look away, the sound begins. Soft, steady, almost comforting. Purring. That's how it finds you. It doesn't need to be seen. It only needs to be believed. Every view, every whisper, every thought keeps it alive. And now you know its story. Now you've let it in. So if you hear scratching tonight, if your own cat looks at something you can't see, don't call its name. Don't look toward the sound, because once it knows you've noticed, it never leaves.